I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good morning, Greg Friel. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful morning?
I'm doing really well, Angel.
It's a great pleasure to connect with you. I'm great, Greg. I'm actually, I'm really excited today. Today.
Good.
Yeah, today is going to be fun, my friend. So we got to have a pretty amazing pre-conversation. Totally enjoyed that, Greg. Please do tell us, what part of the world are you in right now?
I am in Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh, sweet.
Where it is really not that warm. I'd rather be in Trinidad and Tobago, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, my friend, just like anyone else that says something to the tone of cold, I let them know that in my draft email, there's a really nice packaged Caribbean sunshine email that I can send your way.
Right. Please don't, because my wife will book it next week, I'm pretty sure.
That's wonderful. Greg, tell us, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting?
I think it's from my podcast show. I do a podcast show called The Friel Thing, which is a weekly show where I talk about self-development, motivation, team building, and leadership. And we give little tips and tricks for people to hopefully improve their daily lives and their lives at work.
You know, your accent doesn't sound strong Scottish. It sounds mixed in there.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It depends who I'm talking to, because I was born in Ireland, and then I'm actually Irish. My parents are Irish,
right?
And then we moved to Glasgow, but then we moved to New York when I was 7. So from when I was 7 till I was about 11, 12, I was in New York. So I used to have a completely American accent. And if I'm talking to any American friend, it tends to gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
My wife has this thing where she says that whenever I'm talking to people for the first time, I tend to put on the American accent a bit more to try and make it sound a bit more interesting. I think that, I don't know if she's right about that. But I've lived in and around Glasgow really for most of my life. But it's a bit of a mixed accent.
That's intriguing. So on the podcast, like, where did the name Friel, and again, Friel is spelled like Friel, where did that name come from?
Well, that's the origin of the family name is from Donegal in Ireland. My father has been doing a lot of, that ancestry.com thing where you go back and you trace your family. Well, he's been doing a lot of that over the past couple of years, and apparently the name goes back to the first kings of Ireland. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm royalty. I've decided.
Sweet.
So I don't know if it really follows like that, but that's kind of the line that I'm taking with it.
Yeah, you should go with that. Love it. So you've been doing the podcast, and the conversations there have been one where you said to me that you have interviews type sometimes, but the ones I heard, it's you speaking from your heart, it seems, and your heartstrings playing via your vocals, as well as the music you said is yours. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell us more about your musical inclinations.
Well, the thing is, I'm a musician. That's always been my job. I've never actually had a real job, a day job. I've always worked as a musician for over 20 years as a singer, songwriter, a composer, a record producer. And it's taken me all over the world. I've done projects in LA, Nashville, and Amsterdam and Germany, and have had records out all over. But I've done small community projects and stuff as well. And music is kind of what I live and breathe. But over the past few years, I've kind of broadened out from that, and I do musical team building projects with businesses. So I'd kind of spent about 10 years in the recording studio as a writer and a producer, and I was kind of losing my mind because studio's a pretty small space, and my standard line is that prisoners get out more often than I do. So I kind of I should really kind of go out and see the world a bit more. So over the past few years, I've been doing a lot more projects where my background originally is as a performer. So it kind of got me back into doing more performance side of things and engaging with groups of people and teams of people. So through the podcast, everything that you hear on the podcast is my creation. If you don't like the music, then you don't like me. It's very much it's my creation, it's my thing.
Yeah.
And really, in the broadest sense, I mean, I'm wanting to offer value to the people in that space, with what we're talking about. But I'm to be selfish, I'm really wanting people to go, all right, oh, I like his music. It all circles back to the fact that I'm a musician, and I want people to actually to see that.
Yeah, well, I do love your music. No, it's intriguing to me
Thank you.
how you build. You're welcome. How you build the team building part of it. Like how does that work?
Well, it can be anything from doing a choir project where you go into a business and work with them over normally a period of weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. It can be longer. It can be like an ongoing project, and we'll go in for an hour and a half, and we'll actually turn that team into a choir, and that can be a really fun thing. Basically, it doesn't have to be super concentrated and hyper focused on the mission statement of the business, but if it needs to be, then it can, or whatever the problem is that they're trying to solve, we'll look at that from a musical perspective. So that could be, we could write songs about products and services that they're currently maybe launching, look at a new project or a project that's just been completed. And it's the whole idea is to look at things from a unique and different perspective. So, and so we do that with businesses, going into businesses, and then one of the things that I love doing, it appeals to the more show off side of me, is when we do conferences and business events, and I'm the guy that at 9 o'clock in the morning I'll come on for half an hour and get everybody singing, and you either love me or hate me, but I'm like the second cup of coffee in the morning. That's kind of my job. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's intriguing. I can't wait to check out your stuff. So where's the best place for me to go to find out more about the performance side of you?
There's some stuff online on YouTube. If you type in Greg Friel, you'll see some videos and some of the compositions that I've done for events, and also some of the team building stuff. We have some of that stuff online. Quite a lot of the businesses that we work with, they tend to keep this stuff under wraps.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So there's not that much content, from inside businesses that we have on the website, but the website is freelancemusic.co.uk. That's FRIELANCE music.co.uk.
Makes sense. So who did you learn music from?
That's a really good question. My parents are musical, in a sort of completely different way from me. My dad is massively into classical music. He doesn't play any instrument, but he knows a great deal about music, and he actually had a classical music radio show as a sort of side thing that he did. He works in management as a tourism consultant, but he did do a classical music radio show many years ago. My mum is a wonderful singer. They both sing. My dad's a wonderful singer. My mom's a wonderful singer. Dad's more of the opera variety, but my mom's more of a folk singer. She grew up singing in a folk group, and so she used to do quite a lot of gigs as well growing up. She's maybe more of a show off than me. Well, no, maybe not. But I certainly get that side of things from her, I would have thought.
Yeah.
And then my dad, he does a lot of public speaking as well. So there's a performance side that I think comes from him as well.
That's a dynamic duo of a combination. I said that's an amazing combination. Wow. Well, my friend, tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
This is a really interesting question. I mean, I could say really embraced social media, and which is very true. I mean, I have done an awful lot of that consistently, but I would say that the one thing that I've really embraced over the past few years has been change, not being afraid to change, and try new things. and move away from what I've been doing for most of my life and just try things just in a different way. It's just been, I would say the past 3 years have been a huge period of change for me.
How does that make you feel?
It's exciting more than anything else. I think like anything, it's maybe a little bit scary because it is different. But no, I'm super excited about what I'm doing and where I'm going.
Why would you suggest someone out there? I mean, there are so many people that, as you said, are imprisoned in the studio life, right? Why would you? Why would you suggest they even consider doing what you're doing? I love the way you've expanded the model to take you outside.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think, everybody, you've got to follow what it is that's your passion. So me, in a general sense, it's always gonna be music in a general sense. So whether that's in the studio creating music, which I've done for such a long period of time and solely focused on that. I started off as a performer and doing a lot of live performance, and that's actually how I met my wife, Linda. And we did a show together for about 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so we did that, and but that was while I was learning the sort of skills of the studio, and I started to write and produce, and it sort of grew out of that. And then we stopped doing the show about 2007, and then I focused on writing and producing. So I think it's just the fact that whenever you're kind of doing the same thing, it doesn't matter how much you love it, you've still got to mix it up a bit. And for me, I think I wanted to kind of get back to doing a bit more of the performance side of things. I didn't have an outlet for that. So as soon as I was able to kind of tap into that again, I was like, yeah, okay, that's a huge part of who you are as a person. So that's always going to be part of what I do.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'll definitely chip in there. The conversation before yours, which is going to be a pretty long conversation for those that do listen to it, but it was really intriguing because it's a 23-year-old young man who has built the muscle of discipline. And in that conversation, it's intriguing to hear him express how it can feel being the individual who is hitting the goals and doing the thing that he set out to do, which is the thing I suggested, interestingly enough, is something that you tapped on a bit, which is sometimes you need to step away from it to just measure. And I think it's wisdom probably that comes by age, right?
Yeah. Thanks. I'm not getting any
Yeah, it's just really intriguing to see those dots connect. In terms of doing. Yeah, you could go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. You just, as you get older, you realize certain things, and the key word for me is perspective. So that's what I bring to the businesses that I work with now. It's a completely different industry from music, and what you're doing is you're looking at their problems and their people and their teams and what they're dealing with from a completely unique perspective. I think that's the key element.
Yeah, how fun is that? Well, amazing audience, we are live with Greg Friel. You could definitely start checking him out from his podcast, The Friel Thing. In my mind, I constantly I change names to remember things. So like I'm seeing the Feel Real Thing podcast, right? Because it's
right, yeah. Okay. I think one of these days I'm going to do the sequel to it, and that'll be called Even Better Than the Friel Thing. And it can go on. It can go on.
Love it. But again, Friel is Friel, the Friel Thing. Well, Garrick, let's switch gears for a moment. Let me now invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Greg, what is your earliest childhood memory?
I think when I was very, very young, this would have been back in Ireland, and my friend next door, his name was Michael. He had a bow and arrow set, or I had a bow and arrow set, and it was plastic. It was really hard plastic, and we were playing, and he smashed me over the head with it right between the eyes, and the blood was gushing everywhere, and I was left with this really bad scar between my eyes. I mean, it's not like I was massively disfigured. It was, you can see it if you look up close now,
Wow.
but it was something that, I certainly remember it
Why do you think this memory is so clear?
because every time I look in the mirror, I see that scar.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, duh. Every time I look in the mirror, I see myself.
Yeah, no, it's right there. I can't avoid it.
Hmm.
I
That's
actually have a couple
intriguing.
of scars from childhood. I've got another scar just above my lip, and that was from running around. I've always been kind of full of energy, and I ran into, the door,
Yeah.
the doorpost, and that split my lip. So I have a scar just above my lip as well from that.
Wow.
Uh, but these days, you wouldn't get me doing anything remotely ridiculous. I think I did all of that when I was a kid.
So how old were you when he did do the bow and arrow trick?
I think it was maybe about three.
All
I
right.
think 3 years old.
That's
Yeah.
intriguing. Yeah, I have no dots to connect today, folks. But what did it, like from the time you spoke of the bow and arrow, though? I'll tell you that there's a image that I create in my mind of what life can look like in times when you're doing what you're doing. So I'll just share that, right? Not saying that this is the dots that I connected with the memory, because I think you
Okay.
just got smacked, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. The bow and arrow is something where you see an individual pulling back on it, and if you look at it square on, you'll think that the arrow is going backwards. And I think in life, there are things that we're doing, like the 18 years that you did in studio, and even just going around touring, whatever, how that looked like, right? It's just
Hmm.
intriguing how to some people it can look as though it's going backwards, being in the studio, right? But it's
Hmm.
intriguing that if you do look at it from the right direction, as you see the individual focusing as he pulls back or on that arrow, on that string, if you would, then it's amazing to see when he releases or the archer releases and focusing on the target, how fast and how quickly he can achieve his goal, even though it looked as though it was going backwards. So that was the thing that popped
Whoa.
immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Seriously wise. Yes, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
But that's that thing. You hear that kind of story quite a lot. Where you actually have to, you feel like you're maybe going backwards, but then you have to do certain things to spring forward. No, I totally relate to it. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And he smacked you straight in the middle. Like, it's like,
That's
hey, get
right.
this wisdom.
Yeah. It took me
Get
a
this
long time to
wisdom.
learn, obviously.
If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, Greg, what was your favorite song?
My favorite song was "What Is Love" by Howard Jones.
Oh, there we go. Jones.
And I think it was because it was one of the first songs that I heard synthesizers on, and it was a huge pivotal kind of moment for me when I started
Wow.
to get into music. 12 years old, that was just a key time for me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's pretty amazing. I mean, it definitely does connect, right? I mean, you get smacked and definitely blood flows, and they wonder, right, what is love? Well, Greg, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Greg, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
No one in particular. I try and pass on wisdom to everybody I meet. Maybe it's just because I like the sound of my own voice, but maybe that's it.
Well, you are married. You spoke about Linda, right?
Yes, I've been married to Linda since 2003, and we've been together
Wow.
since 1996.
Wow. That's
Quite a long
amazing.
time, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations. Do you have children?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Linda has 3 children from her first marriage, 3 beautiful girls.
Wow. Do you believe in God?
I'm going to say yes. I would like to believe in God.
Or do you have an inner circle of friends?
If you'd asked me this a year and a half ago, I would have said no. I've got 1 or 2 friends maybe, but these days, with all the stuff that I do with work, I've made some really great friends over the past year and a half. So I would say yes.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
Or about 3 hours a week?
Yes.
What about screen time, the phone and or the computer? More than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
I would say definitely at least 8 hours a day. I do a lot of work on my phone. I'm doing a lot of stuff on social media, and yeah, and if I'm not on the phone, then I'm probably in the studio on the computer. Yeah.
I know the feeling. Ooh. Well,
well, I mean, you're just going at this incredible rate and doing so many conversations. I don't know how you're coping with it all. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing pretty well. So I try not to look at the screen as much because so much of it exists on the screen. But I'm always looking away from my screen. And I just listened to a podcast with an optometrist, and they express how necessary it is to start blinking. It's like wow, because of the oils that need to be released from the something, I think it's Bohemian gland or something like that. Big word, but yeah, blink a lot, word, Greg. Okay. Yeah, blink a lot, Greg. Like blink, right, yeah, okay. Blink a lot. All right, so after 1001 conversations, created this book called Yours. It stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. The idea being you answer questions similar to these. In reflection, you write the answers, right? And then you connect to your own unique real statement, a statement that represents who you are, like your mission statement. If you, Greg, had to share with us your own unique real statement that represents Greg Friel, what would you say that is?
I would say it's to inspire and motivate people to look at the world from a different perspective using music.
Yeah,
it kind of sums up everything that I do. It doesn't matter whether I'm in the studio or we're working with a business. I think that kind of, it sums up my personal approach to everything, but also work.
Yeah, I love it. Greg, this was a great pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Hey, before you leave though, let's talk for 30 minutes. I'm joking. Tell me, before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
First of all, thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed this. I'd just like to say life is a gift. It doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish. And the thing that I always say to people, and it's actually the tagline that I have for my business, but believe in the future. You've always got to have a positive outlook. It's the only way you're actually going to be able to face the day.
Love it. It doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. Just like that bow and arrow being released.
Yes.
Make sure you focus and hit the target. I love it. Greg, this has been a great pleasure one more time. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com. And for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.